If you are traveling to Cebu, Philippines as a domestic traveler coming from any part of the country, or as an OFW, non-OFW, or foreign national coming from different parts of the world, then this video will explain the international and domestic travel requirements that you need to prepare as of August 2021. Stay tuned and watch the video to know more. Welcome to DenZ TV. Please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you receive updates as they are posted. This video contains information about the following. Community quarantine classification of Cebu City is MECQ until August 15, while Cebu Province is GCQ until August 15. Domestic travel requirements for Cebu Province and Cebu City via Philippine Airlines, Cebu Pacific Air, and AirAsia. International travel requirements for OFWs, non-OFWs, and foreign nationals. Let's start with the travel document requirements going to Cebu Province. This is for local travelers coming from different parts of the Philippines, whether you are traveling from Mindanao, Visayas, or Luzon. What are the things that you need to prepare if you are traveling with Philippine Airlines? For returning overseas Filipinos and overseas Filipino workers, you have to prepare a negative RT-PCR test result, quarantine certification issued by the DOH Bureau of Quarantine, and identification card. If you are a locally stranded individual, you have to prepare a valid ID, medical certificate, and you have to pass the symptom screening or checking at the point of departure and arrival. And if you are traveling as a tourist, you have to provide valid ID, medical certificate, and you have to pass the symptom screening as well. If you are traveling to Cebu Province via Philippine Airlines as a private apur, please provide valid ID, medical certificate, you have to pass the symptom checking or screening, and you have to comply with the minimum health standards. If you are a government apur, you have to provide your valid ID, a travel order, pass the symptoms screening or checking, and comply with the minimum health standards. Also for Cebu Province, via Philippine Airlines, all inbound passengers, in case you do not have a Trace app or Trace mobile account, please use the Cebu Province Passenger Locator form and provide your details. The link to the form is provided also in the video description below. If you are traveling to Cebu Province via Cebu Pacific Air, these are the requirements that you need to prepare. If you are an authorized person outside residence or a poor, please show valid ID issued by your government agency. If you are a returning overseas Filipino or OFW, you also have to provide the quarantine certificate from the DOH Bureau of Quarantine and negative RT-PCR swab test result. If you are an LSI, all non-apur and tourist, you have to provide the medical certificate issued by a physician valid for 7 days, and for tourists and non-apurs, a confirmed hotel booking from any resort or hotel in Cebu Province. For passengers of AirAsia going to Cebu Province, if you are an apur and doing business travel, you have to show your valid ID and a travel authority issued by the department secretary or designated official in your company. And for those all other guests traveling to Cebu Province, you have to provide a medical certificate issued within 7 days before departure. Now let us proceed to the travel document requirements for passengers of Philippine Airlines going to Cebu City. If you are an OFW or a returning overseas Filipino, please provide the RT-PCR negative result 3 days prior to departure, a Bureau of Quarantine certificate, and a valid ID. If you are an LSI, please provide an RT-PCR negative result. The test must have been taken 3 days from the date of travel, your S-Pass, and a TCP or TPP QR code. If you are for tourism or non-essential travel, please present RT-PCR negative result, S-Pass, and a TCP or TPP QR code. Still in Cebu City, via PAL, if you are a private APOR, the same requirement, negative RT-PCR test result, SPAS, and a TCP or TPP, which is a QR code generated from SPAS also. If you are a public APOR, government ID, and a mission or travel order. Let's go to the requirements from AirAsia, still going to Cebu City. If you are a returning resident, a negative RT-PCR test result valid within 72 hours, a TCP or TPP via SPAS. If you are a returning overseas Filipino worker or a returning overseas Filipino, so we have here negative RT-PCR test valid within 72 hours, quarantine certificate from DOH Bureau of Quarantine, valid ID, and TCP or TPP via SPAS. Transit passengers or those passengers just passing through Cebu City, all you need to provide is an SPAS. Still in Cebu City, via AirAsia, for APOR, private APOR, we have negative RT-PCR test, valid within 72 hours, a TCP or TPP via SPAS, work or travel order, company ID, travel itinerary, round-trip ticket, and confirmed hotel booking. For government employees on official business, mission or travel order, government agency ID, and TCP or TPP via SPAS. For passengers of Cebu Pacific Air going to Cebu City, if you are a tourist or an LSI or returning resident, please provide a negative RT-PCR swab test result conducted within 72 hours before arrival, TCP or TPP through SPAS. For returning overseas Filipinos, including OFWs, a quarantine certificate issued by DOH Bureau of Quarantine, valid ID, TCP or TPP through SPAS, and ROFs coming from Manila will be required to undergo an RT-PCR swab test in Cebu upon arrival, followed by a 14-day home quarantine. Still, travel requirements to Cebu City via Cebu Pacific Air. For government APOR, valid ID issued by the government agency, mission or travel order, and TCP or TPP through SPAS. For private APOR, negative RT-PCR swab test result valid within 72 hours, and a TCP or TPP through SPAS. Let's go to the international travel requirements. These are for OFWs, non-OFWs, and foreign nationals arriving in Cebu via Philippine Airlines. So we have all inbound passengers. We have to register via the online MCIA passenger arrival registration form. Don't worry, the link will be provided in the video description below. All arriving international flight passengers are required to register not earlier than 5 days prior to departure. A travel registration number or TRN will be generated once registration is complete. For land-based OFWs, you have to create or update your account on the OFW Assistance Information System or OASIS. The link to that website will be provided in the video description below. For foreign nationals, you have to pay 901 pesos for your RT-PCR test. And to check who are the foreign nationals eligible to travel to the Philippines, please check the link at the top right corner of this video or in the video description below. If you are arriving in Cebu as a fully vaccinated traveler, whether you are inoculated in the Philippines or in a green country, please take note that you are going to qualify for a 7 days facility or hotel quarantine. Check the card at the top right corner of this video to view the updated list of green countries. The link will also be provided in the video description below. And those are the international and domestic travel requirements for Cebu as of August 2021. Thank you so much for watching. If you find the content of this channel valuable, remember to subscribe. Feel free to check out the other videos